Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. We have the Bills 5.5-point home favorites here across the board, rest of country. But we do have a total that varies from 48.5 up to 49.5. So do shop that total if you're looking to play the total in this one. I don't need to tell you guys what we get here. We get a rematch of a game that got suspended in the first quarter due to tragedy. Listen, we can't see the future. It looked like Cincinnati was having a lot of success early on in that game. It looked like they had a very good game plan as to how to attack this Buffalo defense, and they were kind of moving the ball at will there early on in that game against the Bills. Things could have changed. I get all that. I'm just giving you what we did see in the little bit of time that we did get to see it. Cincinnati last week did struggle a bit against the Ravens, but when you lose two linemen in the middle of the game, it's very tough to make the adjustments. And guys, the narrative all week in this game has been, yeah, but they're going to be down three starting linemen. Yeah, but they're going to be down three starting linemen. Yeah, but they're going to be down three starting linemen. Here's the deal. When you have to make those changes in game, it is much different than when you know exactly who you're going into the game with, what position they're playing, and they are getting reps at said position all week long in practice. Now, am I saying that them missing three starting offensive linemen is of no concern? I'm not saying that. It is certainly going to be of some concern, but it is different. You can't just look back to last week and say, yeah, but look at this offense and how much it struggled against the Ravens last week, and take that with you to this week, because when you have to throw a guy in there who didn't think he was going to play, and you have to also a lot of times these backup linemen, if you guys don't pay attention to this type of stuff, it's like, a guard goes down and you have to just throw in a tackle to play guard, right? Or a guard goes down and you move a tackle over, and now you're moving one guy from one side to the other, and you're doing all the shuffling to try to patchwork a line together. Well, again, you can patch that together and they can practice together at those positions all week long and at least have some sort of semblance of an offensive line. So I do think it's a concern. I don't think it is something that I'm losing my mind over in this one. Adam, I want to start with you here. Am I being too, obviously everybody knows I love Cincinnati and have futures tickets on them and all the different stuff like that. So obviously I have a deep rooting interest for this team, but am I making light of this situation, or does it make sense to say that, yeah, I mean, they looked like crap last week, but there was a kind of a fire drill and you have at least a week to throw a little water on that fire?
It's not just the fire drill aspect, Matt. I think it's also two different teams. We saw a Baltimore defense that was ascending, right? That had been playing better. Some folks threw cold water on the whole idea of with Roquan Smith and without Roquan Smith based on who the opponents were. But all we can say is they were playing better. Well, this Buffalo defense is not playing better. This has not been the Buffalo defense that got everybody excited at the beginning of the year. And ever since Von Miller went out and they haven't been able to generate pass rush with four the way that they had, then Buffalo has been in a spot where they're giving up points. And let's be honest about what happened last week. Even if you take the defensive score and the short fields out, Skylar Thompson still moved the football. Skylar Thompson moved the football against the Buffalo Bills. And now we have a situation where Joe Burrow, who has the receivers to get open quickly, is going to have the opportunity to move the ball against the Buffalo Bills. And I think that's key, because if you're trying to get around the offensive line, you're trying to get the ball out fast. Now, look at last year in this round, and Tennessee has a very good pass rush, and they got after Burrow constantly, and it did affect the Cincinnati offense. I just have not seen anything that resembles that out of Buffalo in quite a long time when it comes to the pass rush. So when we talk about the Cincinnati offensive line, someone has to be able to take advantage of it. And I don't know that Buffalo is necessarily the team to be able to take advantage of it.
Steven, we take a look. Josh Allen last week, 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles. Of course, they eke out that win against the Dolphins. And listen, him being careless with the ball, I think, is certainly a concern heading into this game. But the offensive line, I think, is another something that we should bring up as a concern. The Dolphins got pressure on him on 32% of his dropbacks. So every third dropback, the Dolphins were getting at him. And he took 7 sacks in that game against the Dolphins as well, right? So we do have a situation in which the Cincinnati Bengals are much more equipped, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, to, if Josh Allen hands the offense some short fields and hands them some points and all that, the inevitable comeback that we all thought was happening with the Bills last week, that they were not going to lose to the Dolphins, is not necessarily an inevitable comeback against the Cincinnati defense by any stretch of the imagination. Since week 10, this defense we continue to talk about here, number 3 in EPA per play allowed, number 4 in success rate allowed, number 4 in rush EPA allowed. Like, the Cincinnati defense has brought it over the second half of the course of the season. So if Josh Allen is reckless and gives them a few points and stuff like that, this isn't going to be the question of, do they cover the 5.5? It's going to be like, they're going to win this game outright.
Can't disagree with you guys. I love where your heads are at. I haven't heard enough of it this week. I think it's been all Bills throughout gambling Twitter this week. You know, at least with the content creators and the pro bettors that are making media appearances, because in reality, the public is actually backing this is a pros versus Joe's game. The public tickets are on the Bengals to cover, and all the pro money is on Buffalo. So we are definitely against the sharp money here, but who cares? Because, you know, all the talk about the Bengals offensive line has not weighed into what we've seen from Buffalo over the second half of the season. Bottom 3 in turnovers overall for the year, like you said, Matt, like possible couple of extra possessions here for Cincinnati. And if you look at the last 6 weeks of the regular season plus the wild card round, Buffalo's offense is no longer elite. This is not one of the top 2 offenses in the league. They are down to 9th in EPA, right next to Cincinnati, 11th in success rate. Cincinnati is 5th over that span, basically close to identical in dropback EPA. And Josh Allen is 11th in dropback EPA. Joe Burrow is 5th. So what's happening here? I think Josh Allen is taking too many shots downfield because he's had to overcome the worst expected completion percentage in the league over the last 6 weeks in the wild card round. Not bottom 5, not bottom 3, the worst expected completion percentage among quarterbacks with at least 100 plays. So Joe Burrow has an expected completion percentage 7% higher than Josh Allen. He's taking the easy stuff. He's getting the ball out of his hands. So, you know, I don't grind tape every week. I fully respect all the guys that do. And the ones that I've seen, you know, on social media this week pointing things out are plays here and there where Josh Allen's taking a shot downfield to somebody and there's like 2 guys wide open underneath that he's not taking the layups on. If he starts doing that, then Cincinnati's probably going to be in trouble here. So but at this point, we have 7 straight weeks of this where it's not working. His arm strength is not what it was before the elbow injury. So he's not hitting these guys in stride down the field. And Matt, I think you made an excellent point about the offensive line. Is it a concern? Absolutely. Of course it is. But all of the narrative that the Cincinnati offensive line has gotten better over the second half of the season, I think is misguided because they were still 30th overall on the year in pass block win rate. And for me, in reality, what happened was Joe Burrow just gets rid of the ball faster than every quarterback in the league other than Tom Brady if you look at the next-gen stats. And if you look at the stat that Pro Football Reference puts out there in terms of percentage of times pressured per pass attempt, Cincinnati actually ranks among the top 5 teams in the league because he gets rid of the ball so quickly. So is this offensive line terrible? Yes. But it was terrible last year. They were still competitive in playoff games. So this is not a situation last week where they're a big favorite. We need them to cover a big number. This is the flip. And this was a 2.5 point spread in Cincinnati just a couple of weeks ago. Now we're through the key numbers of 3 and 4. I bet the Bengals plus 4.5. If this touches 6 somehow, I'm probably going to add a little bit more because I think that not enough emphasis has been put on what the Buffalo offense actually is this point versus what they were in the first half of the season.
I rail on sports betting in Nevada all the time. Anybody that has watched this podcast absolutely knows that I talk a lot of trash about Nevada sports betting. However, there's one little book at the south end of the strip that does not juice numbers. So when bets get to a certain threshold, it moves. A 6 did happen at South Point here in Nevada. And with that, I jumped all over that damn 6 because it's the only 6 that has popped anywhere in the country. Like it was it's like they don't juice numbers. So when they get to a tipping point, the number just moves. And so they put up a 6. I took 6 with Cincinnati. You're going to give me that key-ish number here with a team that I think is live to win the game outright, I will certainly take that key-ish number of 6 all day long in this thing. Listen, I don't think Zach Taylor is the sharpest, tool in the shed or anything like that, but at least the guy has done enough, or at least somebody got in his ear and was saying, hey, quit running the ball so much, right? Like, we're a passing team. Take advantage of all of these weapons that we have in our Hall of Fame quarterback. Let's do this. Well, since week 11, they have dropped back to pass on 66% of their plays. Good. Despite only trailing by 4 points or more on 10% of the plays. So it's not even like they had to pass because they were down, because they just haven't been down at all since week 11. It's just the choice that was made to utilize Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst. And let's be for real, Joe Mixon out of the backfield has become a good weapon for them as well. I mean, like, they made a conscious decision to move towards what they do best, and that is Joe Burrow and those guys that he has to throw the ball to. And so this secondary for the Bills has given it up all year long. Like, they have been vulnerable all year. I cannot see a situation in which they get shut down here. Giving me points with a team that I think is live to win outright, I will take any day, all day, and especially if I can get it to 6. Steven, I'm with you. If this thing hits 6 for sure, I would recommend the bet to anybody out there. At 5.5, I still would bet it. If I wanted action on this game, it would be Cincinnati or pass for me for sure. And I might actually end up with a little sprinkle on the money line. I really and truly think they are live to win this game outright. Now, on the flip side here, if we are playing some prop stuff, and this kind of goes against the whole everything that I just laid out for the Bengals case, but from a big playability, because of what Steven just mentioned about Josh Allen hucking the ball down the field, well, at least the more times you huck the ball down the field, the more opportunities you have for these big plays. Eli Apple has given up 16 different plays of 15 plus yards on the season. He's averaging giving up 14.6 yards per reception, which is 114th out of corners in the NFL. So, like, longest reception for the Bills, like, be it either Gabe Davis or Steph Diggs or anything, is like, I think it's very much in play here because of the style that Allen plays, because of the routes that those guys run throughout the course of games, and then also a likely matchup at some point with Eli Apple, who just at one point or another during a game just has a complete meltdown and gets absolutely toasted. So longest reception on any of those guys, I really do like a ton. Just because of the matchup and, again, the style that Josh Allen and them like to play. But, man, I'm super, super looking forward to this game on Sunday. Adam, if I were to ask you, because we do have legalized sports betting now in both of these states, I can't say that I'm super confident that this does make it to 6. What do you think? I mean, like, if you had in your heart of hearts, your gut of gut, do you think that people, if they want to play Cincinnati, should wait to closer to kickoff, or do you think that this is probably just going to stay in this kind of no man's land?
I would wait, because I don't think this is one of these situations where you're getting some sort of pro sharp head fake to try to move it in a certain direction. Because what's the value at you know what I mean? What's the value of getting it to 4-5 the other direction, right? It doesn't make any sense. So I think it's possible it gets to 6. I don't think it gets beyond 6.
Right.
I think these two teams are too closely matched. Just to be explicit from my side, I don't have a play on the side. I like the over, like with 48.5 out there, especially, and everything you guys have just talked about with the Cincinnati defense and offense, which I think is where this thing hinges. You can look at Buffalo, and Buffalo is going to put up its 20, 24 points a game regardless. But if you think Cincinnati can keep pace, I don't think it's very hard to see this game getting to 49.
And you know what, Matt? I've heard a couple people on our Discord this week trying to, take the other side here and say, well, Cincinnati should have lost to the Ravens last week. Entirely true. Like, they should have lost to the Ravens if not for the thick 6 or the fumble in the jungle, whatever you want to call it. But that doesn't matter. Like, we are handicapping for this week in this game only. And what they have shown us over a bigger period of time, other than the third matchup against a division opponent. And that's where we're coming at with this game. And it's also a dog at this point of more than a field goal. Entirely different situation. You have to look at each game individually and move on from there.
Yes, this is this is a styles make fights game for sure comparatively to last week, right? I mean, like the Buffalo Bills defense is not and has not been stout for quite some time, whereas the Ravens defense was on an upward trajectory the entire second half of the season. It is completely different look, and I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, you cannot draw a conclusion from what you saw last week and carry that over into this matchup.
It's truly been amazing. 4 straight playoff wins for Cincinnati where they've lost yards per play in every one of them. And here I am taking them as a dog. Let's do it.